Hey guys, welcome back to NormanRebates. This is my third time trying to record this video. My throat really hurts, so my voice is kinda in and out, off and on. I wanted to apologize for just randomly disappearing on you guys. I had some technical difficulties, then I got sick, then I got a new job, then I got some more technical difficulties, and I don't know how the new job is going to affect my upload schedule until next week. After my orientation. So, but yeah, we're just gonna kind of take it, play it by ear, fly by the seat of our pants, whatever you want to call it. We're gonna do that. Without getting too much into my personal BS, today we're gonna talk about why Ancient Aliens, the TV show and the theory itself both, why those are making you dumber. As you guys might remember from my channel trailer, I have an anthropology degree. Anthropology is not the study of bugs. There are a lot of people, every time I bring it up, they're like, oh, you study bugs? No, I don't study bugs. Anthropology is the study of human culture, history, interaction, origin, things like that. Basically the study of people and what makes us people. My technical degree is in archaeology. But I spent way too much time in cultural and historical classes. So, though my piece of paper says anthropology, archaeology focus, my true degree is just anthropology. I'm not going to get super into every single little piece of evidence. What I am going to do today, I'm going to talk about two, the Thelema airplanes and the Dendera light bulbs. And I'm going to tell you why thinking those things are alien artifacts or remnants of alien interaction with people not only makes you a dumber consumer of information, but also is incredibly offensive to the intelligence of native and ancient population. So let's just jump into it. So, the Thelema airplanes. You guys have probably seen these. I'll throw a picture of it up in the video. The Thelema airplanes are those little tiny 1 to 2 inch long airplanes, basically, made out of gold. But the reason we as humans living in the modern age see airplanes is because they look like what we would think of as an airplane. They have wings, they have tail fins, they have a shape at the front that looks kind of like a cockpit. So yeah, to us, we're going to be like, oh, that's an airplane. That's clearly an airplane. How could you think it's anything else? But we have to take into account several things. First of all, we have to take into account native art style. If you look at a lot of the other art and trinkets and things that have been excavated from the Thelema area where these airplanes came from, you'll see they all have a pretty similar style of exaggerated shapes and things that just aren't... I don't know how to describe it, but it's clearly an artistic style choice for them to look like this. The fact that they look like airplanes to us has nothing to do with the fact that there were airplanes in ancient times. No. There were no airplanes in ancient times. Aliens did not show ancient peoples airplanes. Aliens did not come to Earth in airplanes. There's another artifact, I think, from the same or a similar area of Colombia where the Thelema airplanes were discovered, that looks kind of like a man in a spacesuit. Again, I don't know anything about the culture of this area other than the few things I was able to pick up while looking at images of the artifacts that were uncovered. It is a stylistic choice for some reason or another, and it is a case of that stylistic choice colliding with our human brains and the tendency towards picking familiarity out of things that are unfamiliar. You guys might remember from my Werewolf Legends video, I also talked about pareidolia, the brain taking unfamiliar things and trying to create familiarity out of them. It's not a rare phenomenon. It's why we buy the cars that we buy. It's why we think we hear someone calling our name in a crowded building. It's why in the dark at night we think we see faces and shadows in the trees. Pareidolia is just human brain's way of making us pull familiar things out of things that are grotesque or unfamiliar or uncomfortable for us. You are far more likely, for instance, to buy a car that looks kind of like it has a face. The headlights or the windshield make up the eyes, the grill makes up a nose or maybe a mustache or maybe a mouth. We, as human beings, it's not a trick. It's how we're built. It's how our brains work. We pull familiarity out of everything. I mean, if you think about art, technically art is just a test of how strong your sense of pareidolia and your sense of familiarity in the brain is. There are people that have certain conditions, and I can't remember the names of these conditions, where they don't suffer this. They don't see pareidolia. They don't experience it, or at least they don't experience it in the same way that we do. But I've gone off on my pareidolia tangent for far too long already. Let's just talk about what these airplanes, quote-unquote airplanes, could be. Right off the bat, looking at a picture of one, I see a bird, or maybe a fish, or maybe a bug, or some really cool rock some guy found, a cloud that some guy might have found. And as we dive into ancient Egypt and look at the Dendera light bulbs, I'm also going to talk about this, but to pull from that, if you think of the Egyptian concept of Ma'at, which is the concept of balance and fairness, Ma'at is represented as a feather and a woman. Now, we accept that Ma'at is not literally a woman or a feather. We accept that Ma'at is actually a concept that has been personified. There is nothing saying that the Thelema airplanes were not also a concept that was given a form that was then altered by artistic decision and artistic style. And it is a form that we may not ever understand. It may not be a concept, so to speak. But when you put your brain to work, you can see that the potential that is actually an airplane is kind of ridiculous. So then we're going to move on to the Dendera light bulb. These are two carvings, two that I have seen. There might be others, but I've always seen the same picture of the same two. Two light bulb, quote-unquote, shaped things carved into the temple of Hathor at Dendera in Egypt. And they, at first glance, somebody who's uneducated or doesn't know anything about ancient Egypt, yes, they look kind of like Edison bulbs. But if you spend any amount of time looking closely at these carvings, it's clearly a snake inside some kind of vessel. I can't say what that vessel is. I can't say what it's supposed to be depicting or representing. But I'm gonna let you guys in on a little bit of a secret. It's not the only place in Egypt we don't know what the hell is going on in the carving. There are plenty of others that we just aren't sure of. We think we might have a general idea of what's going on in the image, but we just can't be sure. When you take archaeology classes, when you study anthropology and archaeology, your professor, well, my professors anyway, oftentimes did this exercise where they would tell you to sit back and look around in the room, and then imagine that somehow all the people in the room vanished or died off or were killed by a volcanic explosion. And then your job as the student was to look around at all the things that would be left behind and then try to think of how the future archaeologists would interpret it. And clearly, to us, a laptop, a mouse, a pen, a spiral-bound notebook, a computer stand, a chair, those clearly, to us, look like the items that they are. But you have to think about how the items are going to A, decompose, and B, the fact that without context, certain items aren't going to make sense, especially after parts of them decompose. And I'm not going to get too far into the thought experiment, but just try to do that at some point. Try to sit up in your room or your office or whatever and look around at the items that you have. Think about what would decompose and what wouldn't, and what would be left behind, and how people would interpret that. I know I myself, looking at my bookshelf right across the room from me, I can see several little toys and figurines from like Kinder Joy eggs. I have a couple little Pennywise figurines and I have like an elephant statuette. I have a freaking pill bottle of naproxen from when I sprained my ankle 2 months ago. There's all kinds of things just looking at my bookshelf that if I were to suddenly vanish and an archaeologist came and excavated my room in 1,000 or 100,000 years, I worshipped clowns, or they'd probably think that the little toys and things, the plastic bits, the metal bits, they'd probably come to a completely different conclusion than what is actual reality. I just happen to like horror movies, so I have some Pennywise figurines. I am a bit of a hoarder when it comes to the cute little Kinder Joy toys. I don't have a drug problem, I just haven't thrown away the naproxen pills from when I sprained my ankle. Things like that, like, you and I, we don't think about how the objects we hold near and dear, or how the objects we will leave behind, will impact and affect the view that people have of us now. It's the same thing with artifacts and things left behind in ancient cultures. Just as a future archaeologist might misconstrue some of the things that I own, a current archaeologist is also going to misconstrue things. So the Temple of Hathor, let's jump back into these Dendera light bulbs, and then we'll cut this off and we'll get this posted, and I have to get ready for work tonight. So, the Dendera light bulbs, as I said, if you look at a picture of them, and I'll pop a picture up on the screen of them, they look at first glance like Edison bulbs, and then if you look at them closely, you'll see it's a snake, either in some kind of vessel or putting off a glow. They might be worms. I don't know what exactly they're supposed to represent, but there is clearly a head, and it's clearly an animal. It might be representing a story that we don't have, and there are tons of legends and stories that we don't have access to from ancient Egypt. It's not a rarity that we don't have access to these things. What is a rarity is we actually know everything about an ancient civilization. That is incredibly, impeccably rare. So to say that they're light bulbs just blows me away. But I'm gonna get more scientific about it, and 3, 2, 1. I remember watching the specific episode of Ancient Aliens at my dad's house on the Dendera light bulbs. And I remember being so, first of all, confused, and then kind of upset. I was like 14 or 15, and I'd always loved ancient culture. I'd always loved to learn about history. And ancient Egypt was, and always has been, an interest of mine. Most of my nonfiction section of my bookshelves, because I have 3 bookshelves in my room, most of that section is ancient Egypt and ancient civilization books. Simply because those are my interests, and I like to learn about them. So hearing that the crazy-haired aliens guy thinks that they're light bulbs kind of floored me, because that means that he and anybody else who says they're light bulbs clearly has no idea how temples work, because the argument was that there would have been soot on the ceilings and walls had they used torches and fire to see in the dark. This is a temple. Number one, we have no proof that this temple was actually used, because as far as I can remember in that show, or as far as I have been able to research, I have not seen that they've actually pulled artifacts out of there. I might be wrong, and if I'm wrong, you guys feel free to correct me down in the comments, send me some links, keep me updated, keep me posted on these things. But from the research that I did before making this video, I didn't find any artifacts pulled from that exact temple, so that means one of two things to me. That either means that the temple was built by, or commissioned rather, by a pharaoh, simply so he or she, usually it's a he, but benefit of the doubt, they would have their name imprinted on this building so they had something to point at and say, yeah, that's my building, I built that, I had that commission. That doesn't mean that the building was ever used. That's my first thought on that. My second thought on that is he clearly has no idea how these ancient temples typically worked. And again, this is all the quick amount of research that I did. You guys can correct me down in the comments with evidence and things like that. But they clearly have no idea how a ancient Egyptian temple worked. And how it worked is the innermost sanctums, as the further you go into a temple in ancient Egypt, these different sanctums, these different rooms, fewer and fewer people have access to them. The public, the rabble, the slaves and all, only had access to the courtyard to make offerings to the god. And usually there's a statue of the god or goddess, or some sort of collection area for offerings. People of higher status were allowed to go the next step. They were allowed to go into the actual building of the temple. And depending on how many rooms are in the temple, usually, there's an inner sanctum, a very deep, very dark inner sanctum, where an icon or image or statue of the god or goddess or whatever concept that was being worshipped at this temple, only the pharaoh and the high priest would be allowed in this room. And then as you step back out, more and more people are allowed. So the fact that these rooms, these passageways, don't have soot on the ceiling, number one, tells me he's never heard of cleaning. And number two, tells me he doesn't know how these things work, how there's a possibility that it could have literally just been built to be built. There are all kinds of different tombs and temples that were built just to be built, and they were used very rarely, if ever. And that's not an uncommon thing. I'm not going to jump into the aliens built the pyramids thing today, simply because I'm running out of time. I gotta get ready for work, I gotta get this video up, I got a lot of stuff I gotta do today. But if you guys are interested in hearing me rant about more conspiracy theories, let me know in the comments down below. You can hit like and share this video, subscribe if you're new. If you want to keep up with my haunting content, the best way to do so is to hit that bell icon after you subscribe. Like I said, I'm going to try to get back on that grind. I'm going to try to make more videos and keep you guys posted on any changes to my schedule. The way that my new job works is I work 3 12-hour shifts and then pick up a 4th shift to cover my last 4 to 6 hours. I'm not sure of when I'll be scheduled on that yet. I'll try to keep you guys updated either here or on the Facebook page, so I'll link that down in the description below, so be sure to follow like the Facebook page. You can follow my Twitter at NormanRebates. I post a lot of personal shit there. You can see my ugly face there. But yeah, you can like and follow me on Instagram even. I think I'm also NormanRebates there. I don't post a lot on Instagram, but if I start seeing that you guys are interested in me and my personal life, which I don't know why you would be, I'll start posting more. I'll start keeping you guys more updated on things. But yeah, like I said, you can like me on Facebook. It's just NormanRebates. The description will have all the links. I also have a link to a really interesting Smithsonian article that I found. I really want you guys to hit that up because it kind of gave me a laugh. It is just my literal internal monologue on this whole thing. It's a beautiful article. Anyway, but yeah, like I said, if you guys want us to keep updated with my haunting content, hit subscribe and hit that bell, like, comment, share, all of that fun, fancy stuff. You can follow me Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I think they're all NormanRebates. Like I said, I'll put all of those links down in the description. But I'll see you guys later. Like I said, I'm going to try to keep you guys updated on things. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys later. See you then. Peace out.